78-year-old Ryley's Godfrey Doring was found dead in Webb Park at Mayfield last April. Some of his clothing had been removed and a post-mortem revealed he had been severely beaten about the head and body. It was later discovered his keycard had been operated on 2 occasions, the first time at 1 a.m. and again at 9:15, when $10 was withdrawn from old Ryley's account. Police today revealed the results of their year-long investigation.
Well, recently we received information which led us to the town of Mildura, where we interviewed 2 young people on the 18th of April this year. One of those persons have been charged and extradited back from that state. That information from those people led us back to Mayfield, where another 17-year-old man was arrested last night and he has been charged. Another young person who is at Mount Penang Boys Home, he's been interviewed and charged also.
Meanwhile, 26-year-old Harold Naden has also been arrested and appeared in the Newcastle local court this morning, charged with murder, assault and robbery. Another youth is in custody in Victoria and is expected to be extradited to also face charges. The inquest into the death of Ryley Doring has now been adjourned until May the 19th, when Naden will again appear in court. No bail was sought. The court was told Naden is already serving a sentence for another matter and isn't due for release until 1993. Belinda Borissow, NBN News.
In what has been a week of turmoil for the Newcastle Basketball Club and the Basil Sellers Group, both parties assured the National Basketball League that the game against the Bullets tonight would go ahead. And many people in the Hunter Valley breathed a heavy sigh of relief. This afternoon at the Apollo Motel in Newcastle, representatives of the Newcastle Basketball Club, Warren Skelton and Peter Moynihan, board members of the club that own the licence to the Falcons, agreed and did meet with Paul Sellers and John Horsell, representing Melee Proprietary Limited, who own the team of players and their head coach Ken Cole. The meeting this afternoon is to format an agenda for the conference to be held next week between the Newcastle Basketball Club, Melee and the National Basketball League in a hope to sort out their differences once and for all.
Hunter Valley School students today remembered those who fell with a massive combined ANZAC observance ceremony in Newcastle Civic Park. More than 400 students stood in silence as Newcastle Mayor John McNaughton, RSL executives and other civic leaders laid wreaths on the cenotaph. Some of those participating in the ceremony chose to lay only a small wreath and donate a number of books to be divided up amongst the schools. On the Central Coast and Berkeleyvale Community High School today began a project to remember every local serviceman who served during any war. Wyong Council has joined in the project, donating the trees that will be planted in the servicemen and women's names. The eventual aim of the living memorial is to circle the school's 1 kilometre boundary with trees, a process that is expected to take 4 years. Meanwhile, police are reminding diggers that they'll be conducting random breath testing during tomorrow's pre-dawn hours. Motorists are also being urged to be on the lookout for marchers and early morning pedestrians.
Metropolitan Rescue Services agree with the Police Minister that they're over-servicing the community and must rationalise. In other words, some groups will have to go. Under the new arrangements, district rescue committees will be asked to select the unit best equipped to cover their emergencies in their local government region. That unit will become a priority response unit to be backed up by a secondary group. Country regions hard-pressed to provide even one rescue outfit won't find it hard to comply with the plan, but larger centres like Sydney, Wollongong and Newcastle are in a quandary. In Newcastle there are 3 rescue units provided separately by police, ambulance and fire brigades. Under the new order, 1 will have to go. The decision will be left in the hands of the local Rescue and Emergency Services Liaison Committee, and if it can't reach an agreement by May, an accreditation officer will be appointed by the newly created State Rescue and Emergency Services Board to assess the various crews and advise the Minister of a final choice. The rationalisation program is expected to be completed by the end of the year. In the meantime, rescue services carry on as normal, coordinated as always by police.
During the last 4 weeks, there have been 4 accidents, 2 of them fatal. This afternoon, the by now notorious stretch of Pacific Highway approaching the ANZAC Creek Bridge was the scene of yet another accident, this time involving 4 cars. Ironically, the driver of this Kingswood had been talking about previous accidents on the highway when suddenly his car, travelling south, felt as if it had become airborne, lost control, spun onto the wrong side of the road, facing the other way. 3 cars travelling north smashed into each other behind him. Fortunately, there were no serious injuries. 3 people were taken to hospital with minor injuries. Roads and Traffic Authority carried out some testing on that piece of road last week.
The features that we've identified to examine have been the signposting, the drainage, the need for a barrier between the 2 opposing streams of flow, the geometry of the road and as well the skid resistance on the surface.
They apparently find no anomaly between average road statistics, which state 20 to 30% of accidents happen in the wet, and the 100% rate in the past 9 months at ANZAC Creek Bridge.
The skid resistance is has measured up to be acceptable according to our standards.
Road and Traffic Authority will construct one of these New Jersey concrete barriers. While it may not stop cars skidding out of control in the first place, it is hoped it will stop them from spinning to the other side of the road, colliding with other cars head-on. The barrier is expected to be completed by the end of June.
A large lunchtime crowd was on hand to learn a few tips on the noble art of the cue from the son of one of Australia's all-time greats, Eddie Charlton. Edward took the crowd through the basics of snooker, showing them how to chalk their cue, to the stance, how to line up their shot. At the same time, Edward was extolling the virtues of the game as a great family activity.
We've taken the little table around as a demonstration of different pool games that can be played. As you say, we're only used to the one game out here really, that's 8-ball. Mainly played in the hotels and that because of the coin-operated system. But a lot of people are purchasing the small tables for home use, and in the American games there are 22 different games that can be played. So I'm just trying to introduce a couple of new ones as well as the old stay of 8-ball. It's a good game actually, it's a fun game, very colourful. The other games are fast. 9-ball is one that people would recognise possibly from the movie Colour of Money. And rotation, which is a good fun game. It's something that everybody can get involved with, mum and the kids and all that. The little home tables are good for that very reason.
And to demonstrate that he may be a chip off the old slate, Edward invited members of the public to take him on at 8-ball, and there were plenty of takers. In between matches, Edward enthralled the large gallery with some fancy moves of his own.
Here we go. Kangaroo side, pot the yellow.
The government has been making changes to the system of pharmaceutical benefits since January of last year. But chemists say this latest attack, announced in the recent mini-budget, seeks to reduce the rebate paid to them for dispensing prescriptions. According to the president of the Hunter Pharmacists Association, Phil Dibben, the average pharmacy's income will drop by up to $10,000 a year. Combine this with increased costs through pay rises to staff, and the result will be the inevitable closure of up to 40 out of the 145 pharmacies in the Hunter region. Mr Dibben says a public meeting's been called for the afternoon of Thursday, the 11th of May, but he stopped short of calling it a strike or a stop work by pharmacists.
What the government has done over the last 18 months is change the pharmaceutical benefit scheme in such a way that it is harder for people who are chronically ill to get their medication. If the latest legislation goes ahead that Keating announced in his economic statement, but which he won't release details for, the pharmacist's remuneration will be reduced to such a state that the viability of probably 1,000 pharmacies Australia-wide will be in jeopardy. So we're asking the general public to think about the effect of that on them if their local pharmacy was to close. Where will they go when they're sick to get their medication and their advice?
At Newcastle City Hall today, 40 people became new Australian citizens at a ceremony conducted by Lord Mayor Alderman John McNaughton. In asking the prospective Aussies to take their oath or affirmation of allegiance, the Lord Mayor reminded them their actions will allow them to enjoy a new status in Australia and the world. But he said they are responsible to fulfil duties as good citizens. He stressed, however, there is no need for them to renounce their original cultural identity, customs or traditions. Alderman McNaughton said most at the ceremony were family groups from 11 different nations, including Italy, the Philippines, Canada and Britain. He is surprised at the high number of Britons who become Australian citizens, as he says they have the right to vote even without being naturalised. The Hunter will have 36 more new Australians tomorrow, following a naturalisation ceremony at the Lake Macquarie City Council chambers at 10 a.m.
The Knights officials are predicting a ground record for the ISC, greater than when Wally Lewis and his Brisbane Broncos came to town last year. The predicted huge crowd is expected to leave standing room only for local league patriots. The officials' predictions seem well founded, considering no less than 13 supporters' buses made their way to the Parramatta Stadium yesterday. The trip to Sydney was well worth it for the Novocastrians to see the Knights break their away game hoodoo against a team the calibre of Parramatta. One of Newcastle's shining heroes yesterday, Jeff Doyle, says it was a great feeling stringing 2 wins together.
Yeah, the boys are very happy with yesterday's performance. There was a bit of a cloud hanging overhead with winning an away game, but we didn't put much value in it ourselves, and we knew that it was only a matter of time, and we came through with a good team performance yesterday.
Jeff says, however, he had to hold his breath for a few moments after he slipped a pass to 5'8" Michael Hagan to send him over for the winning try.
First thoughts, yes, and then I saw Eric Grath behind him, and Eric Grath pulled down a lot of quicker guys in his time, and I was a bit worried there, and I actually thought he was pulled down before the line, but when I saw the referee blow the whistle, I was stoked.
The entire quota of next weekend's reserved grandstand tickets sold out this morning in just 3 hours. Alternatively, you can watch the Canterbury Clash replayed in full on Sunday night at 10:30 on NBN.
Police believe the woman drove through a stop sign on Ledigan's Drive into the path of the Cessnock-bound passenger bus. The impact carried both vehicles about 30 metres. 2 passengers in the car, both young boys, have been taken to Mater Hospital with minor injuries. There were several passengers on the bus, but none were hurt. The accident closed the intersection about 1 kilometre west of the New England Highway for about half an hour before traffic could be directed past the scene. Police are still trying to contact the dead woman's relatives. They say they have completed inquiries into the cause of the accident.
No, there's a bolt on the gate on the right hand side. Let's go.
The Newcastle Falcons and their owner Basil Sellers are behind moves to establish a $40 million complex in Newcastle. The centre would seat between 8,000 to 10,000 people and would be the venue for the area's major sporting functions, particularly basketball, boxing and indoor tennis. In a city where announcements are made as often as falling rain, consultant Rick Graff is quick to point out that the centre will become a reality.
Well, what they've done this time is they're putting their money where their mouth is, and they've basically said that the people of Newcastle and the Hunter deserve something better than they've got at the moment, and they're funding the improvements, so I think that's a remarkably good step for them.
The group has already earmarked a number of sites for consideration, including the International Sports Centre, Velodrome, Glendale and the Newcastle Showground. In 3 months the feasibility study will be completed and plans will then be submitted to Council. It's hoped once completed the centre will also stimulate the local economy, offering sports weekends where families can come to Newcastle, stay in a motel, watch the Falcons on Saturday night at the stadium, then watch the Knights on Sunday afternoon. Besides sport, the centre would also offer international entertainment through pop concerts, stage shows and ice sports. Officials say only Newcastle companies and tradesmen would be used in the construction of the centre, to be completed in 1991.
Proving 13 isn't such an unlucky street number, Hunter Lodge at Fig Tree Point, Toronto Bay has set real estate tongues wagging. After being passed in at auction recently, the house has been sold to a professional couple from Western New South Wales for $700,000. At the front entrance, visitors pass by the pool, but the privacy and tranquility of the Hunter Street home is best experienced in the backyard. On just 1/8 of a hectare, the terraced landscaped gardens sweep down to a water frontage complete with a garden house, marina berth and moorings. The property also features 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a fully self-contained guest house and accommodation for 4 cars. Views of the bay are a feature inside, along with a billiard room which comes complete with a full-size table once used by Eddie and Jimmy Charlton. Until the sale of this 68-year-old home, it's believed the highest price paid for a house in the Newcastle Lake Macquarie area was $550,000 for a property at Valentine. With the construction of the Sydney-Newcastle Freeway, prices are expected to soar.
There will be million-dollar figures in the not-too-distant future.
Can people afford that? There's the money around?
Well, naturally the average working-class person couldn't, but the demand and the interest that was shown in this particular property was of very high quality, and I believe that it will keep on rising for prime properties. It just doesn't happen with just everyday properties.
On contract to the Lake Macquarie City Council, the Trueways excavator had been clearing the lake of silt and weed when problems emerged around 9 a.m. According to Trueways, the machine was on the edge of the foreshore when the ground started to give way. The machine slipped into the water.
The machine was in about 7 foot of water, just kept sinking all day. We hooked the excavator on it to stop it from sliding further into the lake, but the back of it just kept sinking. We couldn't control that at all.
The excavator was eventually pulled free around 2:30 this afternoon, but not before more problems had been encountered.
We had a dozer there. We used it to anchor and we hooked onto its belly plate, a hook which is bolted up under the belly plate of the dozer, and as soon as we started winching it just ripped the whole plate straight out of underneath the dozer. There was just so much weight on the excavator and the suction of the tracks holding the thing down. So we had a few problems, rectified that, you know, changed where we hooked up to the dozer again, and we tried again and just slowly got it out.
It's believed the 30-tonne excavator wasn't seriously damaged. Fortunate, as the $250,000 machine is virtually brand new. However, it's yet to be decided who's going to foot the bill for getting it out of the lake. At this stage, the council says the company that owns the machine should pay, while Trueway says it's council's responsibility. In any case, it's hoped the excavator will be back at work tomorrow. Recalling another company's similar experience at Dora Creek some years ago, Mr Hector says it could have been worse.
Deeper it was down at Dora Creek in the wetlands, you couldn't see the cab. That incident took us 2 days to get that one out, so she was a little bit worse than this one.
New Zealand 3-year-old Strait makes his first Australian appearance in tomorrow's FAI Queensland Guineas at Eagle Farm. Strait has an outstanding record in his home country and was runner-up to champion galloper Our Poetic Prince in his last appearance at Otaki on April 19. Turning now to Randwick, and tough stayer CS Levy is set to turn the tables on Stealthy Knight in tomorrow's BMW 7 Series handicap. CS Levy could only finish third behind Stealthy Knight and Semstar in the Memorial Cup on Anzac Day. However, Tony Cavallo will ride the impressive gelding, giving him a distinct weight advantage over the others. Gary has gone for number 2 Golden Dome in race 6 at Randwick tomorrow in the first leg of the Daily Double. In the second leg, Gary's picked number 2 Sayas Levy. In the trifecta in race 7, Gary's going to put the money on number 2 Sayas Levy, number 4 Semstar and number 1 Stealthy Knight. On Saturday night at Beaumont Park, Gary likes the form of number 1 Sports Store in race 9, and in the second leg of the Daily Double, race 10 number 8 Galloway Dancer. For the trifecta of the night, Gary has picked race 7, the Newcastle Distance Championship Final, with dogs number 5 Myocard, number 1 Sparkling May and number 6 Marie's Charity. At the Maitland Trots on Saturday, and number 6 in race 6 Hezenob should bring home the bickies, and in the second leg of the Daily Double in race 7, Gary likes number 8 Beau Pronto. Trifecta for the night will be in race 6 with numbers 6 Hezenob, 7 Tricky One and number 3 National Fox.